Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about one of the best buffs in the entire Season 20 update, and that is the buff to Power Gem on Shadow Sableye. Shadow Sableye's always been a good Pokemon, but its coverage with Power Gem was never great, 80 damage for 60 energy. They not only increased the damage to 85, but they cut the energy to 50, meaning that Power Gem is almost as cheap as Foul Play. This catapults Sableye into a far more flexible Pokemon and makes it a force to be reckoned with. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at the newly buffed Shadow Sableye in the Open Great League. Hopping into the first match, picking up a terrible lead Toxapex into Gastrodon. I'm going to save switch into Shadow Feraligatr. Shadow Feraligatr save switches are very strong into Gastrodon teams. Gastrodon, just with what pairs well with it, it's never going to do particularly well against Gator safe swaps. They're going to go for the Body Slam. They're now going to send in Mandibuzz, and I'm going to throw as soon as I get the move in case they try and go for their move as soon as they do. And now I'm able to force a shield from my opponent. This is really nice. I'm just going to let this go. I got shield advantage out of the mid game. I baited out the Mandibuzz, and now I can bring in Toxapex to absorb energy and just try and deal as much damage as I can. Shadow Sableye, thanks to Power Gem, is going to be substantially improved versus Mandibuzz because, again, not only are you doing more damage, but it's way cheaper to get to. So overall, this is a tremendous improvement. They send in the Gastrodon. I do not want to take Mud Slaps or Switch Talk to Sableye, so I'm just going to KO them with a move. Their final Pokemon is Clodsire, and now I get to send in my newly built Shadow Sableye. I actually got this from a Shadow Raid that occurred during the Pokemon Go World Championships in Hawaii. I'm going to farm up a ton of energy. I'm at the back-to-back foul plays, and this does look to be charge attack priority. My opponent did use their final shield there, and I have to watch for a potential switch into the Mandibuzz. And there it is, Mandibuzz enters the field of play. They're still very healthy. Let's test this new damage. So I fire off the Power Gem. That connects massive damage to one of the Great League's bulkiest Pokemon, and now this is going to set up a Shadow Claw farm down. I'm going to get a farm down, and I should be able to get to 2 more foul plays. My opponent will have to throw energy here, or I'm going to be able to make a move. And if they throw energy, then I should be able to win the game with Toxapex. And they're not going to throw their energy. They're going to try for the farm down, which is their win con. I make it to the foul play. This game is going to end in victory, in large part thanks to the double buff on Power Gem. Great lead in the next match, Toxapex versus Shadow Feraligatr. The reason why I did want to lead Toxapex was it's a very good Pokemon to just absorb energy from the Feraligatr. Feraligatr is running Crunch. That's really unfortunate. Some people haven't TM'd. I really think that as the season goes, we're going to be seeing almost exclusively Feraligatrs on Ice Beam. We are going to see a Powder Snow Alolan Sandslash, and I switch into the Feraligatr. This is a tempting bait for them. I shield, and they do go for the bait. In comes the Azumarill, and this is a situation where I really need to stall the switch timer. The switch timer is 10 seconds shorter this season. It's only 50 seconds instead of 60. So I would love to be able to burn the switch clock and escape with this energy. So I am going to commit the shield. Switch clock will be up shortly. I'm farming up with the Feraligatr, and I'm just able to save it and bring in the Toxapex. This is incredible. I've banked 100 energy on the Feraligatr. Azumarill is finally able to switch out as in comes the Sandslash. Brine won't KO, but it will add up so I can potentially fast move down later. They end up shielding the first Brine. They're farming so much energy on the Sandslash. Are they going to try and farm me down? If they're going to try and farm me down, they're not going to have a good day. I guarantee you that. They are going to try and farm me down. They're going over 100 to do so. They give up when they realize they can't farm down. Opponent tried to commit to the win con, but it was never going to happen. In comes Feraligatr, denying their energy with a Hydro Cannon, forcing their final shield so they don't lose the energy. But the moment they give up that final shield, their fate is sealed. As I can bring in the Shadow Sableye, Shadow Claw down before they make a move. They panic switch into Azumarill. Foul play would have KO'd, but let's showcase that nice and cheap Power Gem as Power Gem knocks out Azumarill, and I'm able to take the win. We move to the next match, Toxapex versus Gastrodon, a terrible lead. Immediate save switch into Feraligatr, and this opponent is a rare Gastrodon team that is actually prepared for Feraligatr. The thing about this team is if you're pairing Gastrodon with something like a Lickitung, is you're just immediately going to get swept by any Mandibuzz you see. Here, I commit the shield last second, and I'm rewarded because it does end up being the Power Whip. Shielding a Whip gives Gator so much play in this matchup. Body Slam, of course, did get nerfed, which means Lickitung is a lot less good than it has been previously. I fire off another Hydro. Is this going to be enough to knock out here? Hydro, I'm not going to find out because they end up using their second shield. That's fine by me. I'm going to actually let myself get farmed down here. I'm not going to fight for Switch. Instead, I'm going to go for the world's most aggressive Poison Jab farm down with Toxapex. They're going to make Body Slam after Body Slam after Body Slam, but Toxapex does not care. That's another reason why I have Toxapex on the lead, is it can just absorb these hits that I don't want the two Shadow Pokemon in the back to have to take. So I'm going to be able to exit this matchup with 100 energy. I'm just going to switch into the Shadow Sableye, Shadow Claw down the normal type, and be in a winning position. But they switch out in the back. They have Licky. They have the other normal type. All right, let's see what Shadow Sableye can do. Firing off this foul play. Oh, that will easily two-shot. Licky throws on alignment, giving me a free Shadow Claw. And if there's anything you want to try and avoid this season, it's giving this Pokemon extra energy. I can throw 4, win charge attack priority over the Licky, and pick up the knockout with the foul play. And now I have residual energy for the Gastrodon. In comes the Gastrodon. I'm going to try and go for a foul play into a combo play Brine. So I am going to switch, go for the Snipe. Unfortunately, I didn't time it well, and I give them a free Mud Slap. And this gives them the energy needed to make an Earth Power, because a Body Slam would not KO here, but an Earth Power will. So my poor timing actually makes this game closer than it should have been. The good news is, Shadow Sableye is a beast. We tank the licks, make the foul play, and despite the fact that they technically had me triple hard countered, double normal versus double Shadow Claw, and a Gastrodon into my Toxapex, I'm able to win the game. Great lead in the next match, Toxapex versus Feraligatr. Opponent safe switches into a Shadow Drapion, and I don't have an amazing response to a Shadow Drapion. I have 2 Shadow Claw users in the back, which are not going to do great against the Pokemon with the Dark subtyping, so I'm kind of forced to stay in here and play this out with Toxapex. The good news for me is they didn't crunch debuff on the first one. That means I know I can guaranteed tank the second crunch, and make it to a Brine to potentially threaten a knockout. They get the crunch debuff this time, but it's not the first time, so I'm pretty okay with it. I'm going to be firing off the Brine. Brine does pick up the KO. I'm expecting them to bring in the Feraligatr and farm down. I cannot let them get an energy advantage. Any more than a turn advantage is going to be a huge problem. So I'm going to bring in my own Gator. I know that I can tank a Hydro, so I'm going to let that through, farm up 4, and then throw right before they're able to make it to their move. Hydro does not KO, but it does do quite a lot of damage. The Hydro will be shielded, and my opponent is forced to throw their energy instantly. From here, I'm just going to go for a 1-shield farm down with the Shadow Sableye. Shadow Sableye, Shadow Claws do quite a bit of damage. I bring in the Sableye, and suddenly I realize I've made a mistake. This is not a Shadow Feraligatr. Most Feraligatrs are Shadow. This is the regular, which means it is extra bulk, which means it can live to make another move, but I get the catch onto the Toxapex. This is incredible. Hydro Cannon, undercharged, and in that instance, I instantly lose the game. What an unbelievable undercharge by my opponent. They're going to Poison Sting me all the way down with Clodsire. And unfortunately for me, there's just no way to win this game now because I'm going to get knocked out. I'm too low. They have too much energy here. I found out after the fact that this trainer who I fought here is actually Elshay battling on an alt account. So a trainer who was 4th at Worlds in a previous year. Same leads as last game, Toxapex versus Shadow Feraligatr. Well, granted, the Feraligatr is Shadow this time. It's a good lead, but let's try to actually win the game this time. It's another crunch Feraligatr. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. That is really unfortunate luck. I'm going to be firing off the Sludge Wave, looking to pick up the KO. Opponent will actually commit the shield. The interesting thing here is since they didn't debuff, this second crunch will not knock out. I have a very high ranked Toxapex, so I'm going to be able to withstand it, make it to the Brine, and now they have to give up both shields or lose their Feraligatr. Out comes Clodsire. I cannot afford to give this Clodsire the farm down. Opponent tries for a Hydro Catch onto Mandibuzz, and this game is already over. Claude is going to get hit with the Shadow Sableye in the end game, and I'm able to land that Ice Beam, dealing massive damage to Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz is going to fire off the Aerial Ace. I'm going to be able to make it to the Ice Beam. I throw an alignment, but realistically, I just want to force this final shield. I don't really care about giving them the extra energy. I'm pretty okay with that, to be honest, because I know 2-Shield Shadow Sableye cannot lose this endgame. An Earthquake from Clodsire is going to do way more than a Dark Pulse from Mandibuzz, so I can just let this go. I'm very okay with that. They end up going for the Aerial Ace instead. I'm going to farm up with the Sableye, go for the Foul Play to KO, and now they're in a position that is Clodsire's worst nightmare. Clodsire is in a position where it needs to make it to 3 charge moves, but you know what? Let's make it 4. Let's have a back-breaking catch onto our Toxapex. And at this point, the opponent is going to realize there's no way to win this game. Like, I didn't have to do that catch. I was winning without it. But sometimes it's fun to do a bad manners catch. And I was able to do exactly that. Negative lead in the next match as I lead Toxapex into Clodsire. I safe switch the Gator, and out comes Mandibuzz. This is a very playable matchup for the Feraligatr. Mandibuzz is actually forced to go down a shield because I believe Gator up a small amount of energy does actually win zeros. They're going to go for the Dark Pulse. That deals substantial damage, and they're not even going to let me make a move. I could shield and land an Ice Beam, but realistically, that doesn't win me Switch. So if I'm not winning Switch, I want shield advantage. So I'm going to keep the shield advantage, bring in Toxapex, and just use it as the gigantic damage sponge that it is. They're going to fire off Dark Pulse after Dark Pulse. Toxapex does not care. Again, just no shielding everything in this matchup. It's another Dark Pulse. I'm going to fire off the Sludge Wave. Sludge Wave going to do some nice damage onto that Mandibuzz. Sludge Wave is going to connect, getting Mandibuzz very low. Mandibuzz, this will be a difficult farm down here. I think 3 jabs should KO. They go for the Dark Pulse here. They actually live the 3rd jab, but the 4th will KO. They're going to bring in the Clodsire, and I will fire off the Brine. Brine is super effective. It sure does not look it. In the back, they have Shadow Feraligatr. Previously, versus a normal Feraligatr, I was not able to get this farm down. But watch what Shadow Sableye can do. I'm going to go for a double shield. I'm going to go over 100 energy intentionally. My entire goal is going to be to exit this matchup with 100 energy loaded, because if I do, I win this game. And I do get the farm down. Shadow Sableye looking to farm and fire off another foul play. They're forced to throw energy onto the Sableye very soon. I'm expecting they do 2 and a move. They actually do 1 in the move. If they did 2 in the move, I would have caught it, but I can make it to a Brine. Now, Brine's a terrible move, but it is super effective. So surely this will knock out, and I'll win the game. The Brine does not KO, but I Poison Jab down a Clodsire and take the win. Tough lead again for Toxapex, as this time I lead into Gastrodon. I'm going to save switch into the Shadow Feraligatr. Gastrodon choosing to stay in, so I'm very okay with firing off the Hydro. Hydro will hit for massive damage. Opponent protecting the Gastrodon, understanding Gastro will be very annoying for me to deal with my Toxapex. They're going to be switching out here. They send in Shadow Drapion. I'm going to fire off the Hydro. I know Hydro is going to hit for so much damage. The Hydro Cannon will connect, getting them very low. And here I realize that my opponent probably is doubled up on Aqua Tails. If it's Crunch, I can farm down, but it's not. It's double Aqua Tail. I'm forced to switch out and catch. I'm able to take advantage of the desync and the 50-second switch timers, but the uncomfortable thing is I'm now switch locked. And you really don't want to be a Toxapex switch locked into a Gastrodon, as Gastrodon is going to be able to fire off the Earth Power that hits for massive damage, and Brine just cannot really compete in this matchup, to be 100% transparent. So Brine not going to do a lot. And in this moment, I have to assume it's some manner of ice type in the back. I bring in the Sableye. I switch into the Gator just to fire off a move and try and pick up a knockout or force their final shield. They're going to let it go. It is an ice. It's a Sand Slash. My Gator, which has survived on 1 HP quite a bit today, does not survive to make that move. And unfortunately, this game will end in a loss. It was a very tough lead, but unfortunately, not getting that Hydro Cannon dooms me to a loss. Hopping into the final match, what a terrible lead, leading into a Shadow Golurk. I save switch into Shadow Feraligatr, and my opponent responds with Wall Rain. They go straight for the Icicle Spear, as this way, they're going to be able to deny me from getting the full sneak and get the turn back. However, here's the thing. This is not a very comfortable matchup for the Wall Rain, because their fast move is resisted, mine is neutral. So I'm going to have a commanding matchup. I'm able to force a shield from them, and watch this play right here. I know that I can Poison Jab down before they're going to be able to make it to a potential Earthquake. So all they're going to get is an Icicle Spear. Opponent is going to fire off the last second Icicle Spear. I know they're short, so I don't have to shield it. Even if they made it, I can survive it because I want to brine versus the Shadow Golurk. Shadow Golurk is very scary, but if they no shield, this is going to do a ton of damage. The brine connects, aggressive switch into the Sableye, and we get the snipe. In the back is Licky, and my Shadow Sableye should be in a great position. I fire off a foul play. Foul play will hit for massive damage. Opponent is going to commit the shield. That somehow ended up being a charge attack priority tie. It shouldn't have been, but it was. I shield up the Shadow Ball, and yeah, there's just no winning this for my opponent. I fire off the foul play, and we know the foul play is able to two-shot in this matchup. So Shadow Sableye definitely benefits a ton from the Power Gem buff, but it also benefits from the fact that Lickitung is gone, and its Glacier cousin Licky is in its place, because Licky, a lot easier to flip the matchup if you're the Shadow Sableye. Yeah, that's just Shadow Sableye completely taking over the endgame and delivering a victory. All in all, I had an unbelievably fun couple sets running Shadow Sableye. I had never built one before, so this is my inaugural time testing it out, and the increased damage and the decreased energy on Power Gem makes it unbelievable. The flexibility of this Pokemon is drastically increased because you're able to get to way more of these Power Gems and you don't have to sacrifice damage to do so. It's a double buff, so more damage and 10 less energy. So most of the time when you make it to a foul play, you're either at the Power Gem or you're one off. So if you haven't built a Shadow Sableye yet, you have one with Frustration TM'd off. It's one I definitely recommend looking at building because this thing feels incredible in the meta. It feels very flexible, even with a bunch of normal types having been buffed. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated, so thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.